the boy child is in trouble. And if we don't do something about it, we'll soon find that we're irrelevant. Okay, boy child is in trouble. So here's a topic that has fascinated me for a while. And why is a boy child in trouble? Is it because more attention is being given to women and girls, and so boys are being left out? Okay, so here's what I think. I mean, I've been having this conversation with so many people. Like almost all the time I meet someone, I have to try and have this conversation. So while it's true that more effort is being put into educating women and girls, more now than ever, we're beginning to see the results of those efforts. Okay, which is great. But for me, while women and girls have been evolving and reimagining themselves, I think men and boys have stuck to the same script that has been used for thousands and thousands of years, and it's not working. Okay? So here's where I think the problem comes in. Men and boys have been using a blueprint for socialization that is outdated. It's kind of like trying to, it's kind of like trying to run a Range Rover using an engine from a car that was created in 1864. The blueprint is wrong. While the hardware is there, the software is, outdated completely. All right. So let me explain. So many years ago, men were, essentially providers, protectors, and decision makers because they're the ones who controlled resources. Okay. So, you'd be living in a community and then the Vikings invade, or whoever, a warring community comes and tries to invade you. And so the men would go out and fight and protect. And then also the men would go out and hunt, and you'd come back with a deer slung over your shoulder, and you'd bring home the food. And then because you were out there looting and plundering or doing whatever, you'd bring home the income. And so by that definition, you are the decision maker about how the resources would be used in the home. And when the men were out fighting, women would be in the kitchen cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the babies at home. So that traditionally was the role of women. But now, fast forward to the day and age where we are, and we don't per se have, warring communities or clans coming to invade us. And so that protection in that sort of sense has sort of disappeared. But the protection now is more in an economic sense, protection from economic pressure. And so you're finding that because women and girls now are becoming more empowered, so women are beginning to work, they're able to earn money, and they're able to also bring home income and resources. And so they're also decision makers. But then what happens when a man or a boy has been socialized to believe that even in this day and age, they're still the protector, provider, decision maker? Yet you'd find that this man is in a relationship living with a woman. He's not working. She's the one who goes out. She's the one who makes the money. She's the one who brings it back home. She's the one shopping for the family, making sure there's food on the table. So essentially, the roles have switched, and she is now the provider, protector, decision maker, and manager and controller of resources. What happens in such a situation? So the way I see it is that sort of creates a crisis of masculinity, because for somebody who's been firmly brought up to believe that as a man you should be performing these roles, and now you're sitting at home without a job and your partner is the one who's performing those roles, that quickly creates some sort of power dynamic that takes the privilege away from the man. And so remember, men have traditionally grown up in privilege. And so once you take that privilege away, that creates some kind of tension. And so what then is the use of this man? What is his, how else can he affirm his masculinity? If all these things that he has been taught to believe are what make him a man are now being performed by somebody else, does that mean he is less of a man? Does that mean because he cannot perform these roles, he has no value as a man? And does that take away from his masculinity? So this is a crisis that I'm seeing. And what happens is that this quickly becomes very toxic, because here's a guy who has been brought up to believe all these things very deeply. And now he cannot affirm his masculinity. And so he looks at trying to do that by controlling his woman or his partner using violence. A guy will go out and then be like, you know what, leo ataniona, she's coming here, and she thinks because she's got 5 PhDs and she's got more money than me, I am still the head of this house. Okay, I'm still the one who makes the decision. In fact, a lot of men will go to the extent where they're like, the woman will bring home the money and he'll be like, give me the income, give me your salary, and I'll decide what to do with it. So it's creating a lot of tension. It's creating a lot of problems there. And this is why I think the boy child is in trouble, because if we don't reinvent ourselves and think about what are these other roles that we can perform apart from these traditionally prescribed roles, which are now outdated, what are these other things? What are these other roles that we can perform? And does it mean that because you're not performing those roles in this day and age that you are not a man? Men like to think that we are the stronger sex, but if you think about it critically, women are the stronger ones in almost every way imaginable. I mean, women are better planners, women manage resources better, women even have a higher threshold for pain than men, and, one would argue that the only thing men are good for is, carrying groceries and taking out the trash, but, that's debatable. But if you think about it, women don't even need a man to be present to make a baby. There's sperm banks for that. And so I think the reason why the boy child is feeling like we are under, attack is because we are slowly finding that the blueprint we've been using for our own socialization and to define who we are as men is outdated. So we need to come up with a new one. So let's take this question very seriously. What does it mean to be a man in this day and age where you're not performing necessarily the roles of provider, protector, decision maker? And there are other roles that we can perform that equally affirm our masculinity and create some sort of equality within relationships.